I'm so excited that you've taken time out to tune in to the Ella Johnson Show. I hope that you enjoy the broadcast. I hope you'll laugh. I hope you'll cry. But I hope that you'll be moved by what you hear. Well, my guests are very special to me, and so are you. So I want you to sit back, enjoy the show. What you can become depends on what you can overcome. Yes, I'm so excited about my children's book that's coming out, and I'm looking for some mahogany kids. I'll tell you about that later. And now it's time for the Ella Johnson Show. Hello, everyone. It's time for the Ella Johnson Show. If you have been following us this week, you know that we have been doing domestic violence shows the entire week. One whole week dedicated to true stories of survival for domestic violence. And sitting with me tonight is my beautiful, wonderful, awesome co-host.
Hi.
Who is also an advocate for domestic violence and a survivor. Say hello. She was supposed to be with us Monday, but she's with us tonight.
Hi, yes, thank you. Sorry, I was sick on Monday. So thank you for having me on tonight. And I'm so excited to be here. And as always, I'm just so thankful that you're bringing so much awareness to domestic violence.
We have to. Oh my gosh, we have to. We have to. Listen, those of you that are watching, thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Ella Johnson Show. If you are watching from YouTube, thank you. I just need you to do me a favor. You're already there. Just subscribe to the channel and watch and enjoy. And I want you to make comments. If you're watching from Facebook, please share the broadcast. Just hit the button, share. Make sure you put it on your timeline because there are people there that you don't know. Because listen, one thing about domestic violence is that most people that suffer from it do it in silence. So they don't want anybody to know, but this is good information that we're going to share tonight. Right, Carla? It's going to be awesome because we have a couple of guests here tonight and their stories. We have a man, because we didn't want people, Carla, to just think that this happens only to women, right?
Right. And that's such a misconception that men aren't victims of domestic violence, but they are all the time.
They are. In fact, 1 in 4 men have experienced or will experience domestic violence in their life at some point, and 1 in 3 women. So it is something, and it's even getting heightened even more because of the pandemic, because people are home more now, Carla, right?
Yes, that is a major issue. Everybody's home. Everybody's like my daughters right now.
I could hear them.
But everybody's right up under each other and they're getting upset. And I mean, that's what happens right there.
But you know what? Speaking of kids, though, here in Florida, like our state is retarded right now. I can say that with how we're handling the pandemic and everything. Have you been watching what's going on in Florida?
Yes, and it's so strange because from state to state, it's all over the place, and there's no real, consistency across our whole entire nation, and it makes zero sense to me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, because I know you guys have been following because it's all over the news. They're talking about it everywhere, what's going on in Florida. But our governor here signed an executive order preventing the schools from putting a mandate in place for masks. And we know that there's a spike with kids getting in the hospital And I hope that one of our guests, she's gonna come on, but she's gonna maybe give us some information about COVID too. She's very smart. She was schooling us in the backstage there, so maybe she'll share some of that knowledge with you guys. But um, it's just crazy. It's crazy with everything. Do you think it's gonna last a long time, Carla?
I think this new round is the Delta variant. I think that it's going to make its way through everyone again, and I am anticipating maybe not a full shutdown, but a lot of restrictions coming back.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's very scary. I mean, my kids are going to school here in Charleston, and they they just announced that they are not enforcing a mask mandate because of our governor, and so
Oh, so you guys have a retarded one too.
yeah, I mean, South Carolina, we're just it's come on, but
Well, we just got to pray for our kids, send them
yeah,
back, cover them with the blood,
yeah.
and
Everybody was so out of it, we were done, and now it's like, oh, it's back, it's back. So now
and
it's
it's
like,
coming worse. So you
yeah,
guys stay safe out there, please,
for sure.
and please do the best you can. Hi, Mama. Just let her say hi. She might as well. She's all in the shot.
I know,
Hi, sweetheart.
they were told to stay. They're supposed to be in bed.
Well, you know how kids are. You already know. But anyway, guys, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna watch a video, a quick video, and when we come back, I want you guys to meet our guest for the tonight. They have some powerful stories that they wanted to share here on the Ella Johnson Show. But we're gonna watch this video, and when we come back, you'll get to meet our guest. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Please tune in to hear our stories and my story and my journey of the pain, the passion, and now the purpose.
Our story of triumph. You may cry, you may be inspired, but we do hope that you leave empowered. Join us.
Wait to share on Ella's platform to tell my story. So get ready to be empowered.
Tune in to hear my story and how that pain is now my purpose. I'll see you there.
Prepare your hearts to hear some true stories, amazing stories that will inspire you, and some that will bring you to tears.
And we're back. We are back. Listen, if you are just tuning in to the Ella Johnson Show, you just clicked over and you have no idea what we're talking about tonight, well, this week, this entire week, we've dedicated to listening to true stories of people who have survived domestic violence. And tonight we have two more stories. Listen, guys, they're like so many people are experiencing domestic violence, and the majority of them are suffering in silence. So we wanted to do these shows to bring awareness to it so that those of you who are suffering, you can make a plan to get out before it's too late. One of the things that inspired me to do these shows is that my cousin was killed last year, 2020 in December, as a result of domestic violence. I just seen her for Thanksgiving, and just the following week, Monday, she was already in the hospital because she was around someone that took her life. And so she didn't get a chance. So I'm going to be her voice through these people that come on this broadcast to let you know if you're with someone and you're in this situation and you know you need to get out, listen to these stories because I think it's going to inspire you to do it. But I am so excited about you guys tonight. Are you guys excited?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, I guess, I could be eating a box of chicken somewhere, but yeah, I'm good. Well, I'm so excited. I want everybody to get to meet you guys. We have Shavana and Phil. Phil has been watching all the shows this week, so he kind of knows how we do things here. But you guys have already met my beautiful co-host. Say hello again, Carla.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, Carla is also a survivor as well as an advocate for domestic violence. So she was like one of my first guests, and her story was just something else. I mean, she was held hostage for 9 hours?
Yeah.
By her abuser. But look at her today. She's thriving and doing well and doing some great things to bring awareness to domestic violence. So she's my sister now. Yeah. Everyone is my sister and my brother once you come on the Ella Johnson Show. We're hooked together for life, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's meet our wonderful guest tonight. We have Shavana Warmington. Shavana is out of New York, guys. She's a survivor. She's an advocate. She's the CEO of Ladies of Lavender. I like that. Lavender. That has a nice ring to it. She is an author of Diamonds in the Rough and Power of Perseverance. She's co-authoring. And she's just finishing her memoir, Surviving My Scars. And guys, listen, you won't believe what her abuser threatened to do to her child. That's all coming up in her story that she's going to tell right here tonight. Welcome to the Ella Johnson Show, Shavana.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
You look beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm loving those colors on you. They look amazing. Awesome. Then we have Mr. Baxter, Phil Baxter. You know, it sounds like a talk show host or a game show host or something, right? Baxter. It's just so real. Phil Baxter. I love it. Now, Phil is a survivor, and he is also, he's out of Virginia, one of my favorite states. He's in Virginia. He's a survivor. He's also an advocate for domestic violence against men. Now, like I said, and I'm going to keep saying on this broadcast, some of you are not aware that domestic violence also happens to men. Well, you've already met Gene this week, and he shared his story, and now Phil is here to share his story of how he survived it as well. So, we want to just kill all of this, that it's just a woman thing. It is clearly not that, right? And he's also in the process of opening an assisted living facility. That's great news. Now, you're not going to believe he was married to a woman who repeatedly provoked and abused him. Now, women, why are we out here provoking men? You just want him to hit you, right? But he didn't, and he's here to tell his story on the Ella Johnson Show. Welcome, Phil.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes. Well, listen, guys, I know that it's not easy to come here and tell your story, but I want you guys to look at the big picture. The big picture behind this is that there's some woman, there's some man sitting on their couch right now, and they are afraid, just like you were. They are embarrassed, just like some of my guests have been, and they don't want to tell anybody what they're going through. But that's the one thing we want to change with these shows, is that people, stop trying to handle it by themselves. There's agencies out there, there's help, and we want to point them in the right direction. But in doing so and telling these stories, we hope that you hear something, you're like, oh no, I don't want to be like that. That's exactly why we bring these shows on, so that it'll trigger something in you, especially if you have kids, and especially after you hear Shavana's story. So, Shavana, let's dig in. Tell us
Okay.
a little bit. Tell us a little bit about the Shavana, because when you sent your story into the show, you talked about the old Shavana and how she changed. Because it'll change you, I'm
Yeah.
sure. It'll
Yeah.
change you for sure. And I want people to know the live and vivacious person you were before. What kind of stuff did you do before?
I was into my arts. I love to model. I had a whole hair salon out of my garage. I was definitely into the social life. I just like to be outside. I like to be around people. And at that time, I think it was my freshman year of college. Like, just live life. You get a taste of adulthood. You just want to be out there and just see what's out, you know? And it took one person to really dim that light down. Like, I completely lost myself after dealing with this individual.
Wow. So it had to be that impactful what he did to
Yeah.
you to make you just want to give up, because I know a lot of things suffered, your schooling, a lot of that. So let's talk about this guy. We're not trying to give him any juice, but we do have to talk
Oh,
about
it's
him.
okay.
Where did you meet him?
Shopping, my favorite pastime, shopping.
Shopping. So
Yes,
you were
I was
doing
actually
something you
shopping in a
love.
store.
Yeah. And what did he say when he saw you?
He was simple, like a typical walk up, hi, how are you type of situation. They're not going to have a sign that says they're going to do such and such to you later on. So I didn't pick anything up out of the ordinary.
Of course.
And he asked for my number. I gave it to him. I went home. He called the same day. And I was like, okay, simple conversation, nothing big. And mind you, I'm still in school. I'm still working. So I really had time and didn't have time because I'm still living my independent life.
Right.
And I wish I would have seen certain things like as the conversation progressed. Because at the time, I didn't know that he literally just beat the girl before he met me. Had no idea. And he got into some kind of situation, didn't know he was on paper. So, anyone who's listening, when you're on paper, you're on parole or probation. Had no idea. And that
So
was what it
take
was
us
for.
take us to the relationship a little bit. I want people to know, because it's hard to detect signs up
It
front because
is
they're very charming. And I'm
very,
assuming he was the same.
very.
Very charming.
He was sweet about being around my family. At the time, he wanted to pretty much see who they were. I thought he wanted to meet them. I didn't know he had different motives. And the typical sweep you off your feet, giving you all the attention you could ask for. I figured it was infatuation at the time, leading into what I thought would have been love, but it was one sided. It was definitely one sided because you're not going to see that sneak hit coming to you.
Mhm.
So did you guys
And
eventually move in together?
I was living with him for a while,
Okay.
and that's when it went to hell
Okay.
because me moving in with him was the first steps of the isolation process. Because now it's like, oh, if you're going to your family, can you do that after you do this with me? And that one errand would run the whole day. I would never make it back to my mother's house or to see any of my relatives. If I'm going to work, I was being clocked at work. Why did it take so long for you to drive back? Mind you, I own my cars. So I don't see how I'm being clocked in my own vehicle. If I took a detour, it had to be a question why. He would monitor my money. Like he's seen the hours I worked, and I had worked a state job at the time. And it's like, how do you work this much money and you don't have anything left? Again, I like to shop. So I don't see what
You
I'm
work
saving
for
for.
it.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
can't take it to the grave. And I'm still
Yeah.
young. I want to do what I want to do. That became a problem. It went
So
from there to public embarrassment. And I just stopped going outside with him. So it was to work back in the house. I didn't want to see anybody because I'm like, they just seen what you did to me outside. I shame very easily. So I didn't want to be seen by anybody after that. Like, let me hurry in, hurry out, go about my business, avoid any of the repeats.
so let's go back a little bit. Now, prior to you moving in with him, you didn't
Mm-hmm.
see any of this.
Because again, I'm in my own little space, just doing what I wanted to do.
So why did you not keep your place and decide to move in with him?
Being hard headed, I'll say being hard headed. My mother did see something wrong, and I'm like, no, mom, you're wrong. Give him a shot. And who all that's listening, listen to your parents. I swear to God, I wish I would have listened to my mother. That's the one thing I wish I would have listened because she saw the demon I did not see.
Now, Carla, interject here. Do you think that most times the parents get involved? Because sometimes parents are like, "That's you. That's your life." But
Well,
she's
I think a lot of times, I think there is a lot of that, but I also think someone in your life, whether it's your parents, your friends, your siblings, someone can see something that's not right that you cannot see. Like, and you may have that gut instinct. You may have some sort of intuition that something is wrong. You just, like you said earlier, you think it's infatuation or lust or whatever it is. And, but there is always something there. And you said something earlier about, that he was on probation or parole, and you had no idea that he had just done this to someone else. And just really quickly, there's a petition for what's known as Tina's Law, and that's for violent offenders to register just like you would a sex offender or an animal abuser in every single state. And so you can plug in their name and you can say, oh, this guy has a history of domestic violence, or this girl has been charged with whatever. And that's a great point that you just made, that he had literally just done this to someone else. And
Wow.
during that time, he was just acting as if he was the most charming,
Yeah.
and what you saw was not at all the reality of that. And that's
How did you find out? How did you find out, Shavonna? Take us through that period
So,
where you found out.
because he's on paper, and this was kind of like my break when I should have seen what it was. Because he violated parole in New York, if you violate parole, you get put on a 13-month punishment per se. They put you back on Rikers Island. So I'm like, okay, whatever you did, I didn't do it with you. I still got school, I still got work, I still have life. So I'm outside pretty much. That's the phrase we use, outside. And the girl called me and she was like, listen, I know you don't know me and I'm not trying to come and start any issues, but just know that if he did it to me, he'll do it to you. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't know what it is. You probably want him back. You can have him. Like, stupid in the head. And again, flag. She kept calling. She was like, I'm warning you because it's going to happen to you too. It's happened before me. It'll happen to you.
Yep.
By the time I got that call, he was already home. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take heed to what was said. I'm going to keep a third eye. But at the same time, they have ways to get into your head. It's like, they get you mentally after they get you emotionally, and that's how they completely break you after those steps are taken. They can get in and destroy you internally.
That's what I'm noticing, a trend, Carla, with all of the guests. It's like they have lost their ability to think because he's gotten into their head. And it's like, how do they do that?
Gaslighting is how
Yes.
gaslighting.
Gaslighting.
Exactly how they do it, and manipulation, and the entitlement. You think that you are insane for everything that you're like, wait, hold on, this isn't correct, and they make you feel like you're in the wrong when you're not at all. That's exactly how it happens. It's crazy.
So take us, Shavonna, to the first time it got physical.
The first time it got physical, I was driving down Sutton Boulevard towards Linden, and we were in the car. It was some type of altercation we were having, like a verbal dispute, and he bit me in my face, like right across here.
He bit you?
He bit me, like teeth, mouth, on my face, scarred.
I've never
I
heard
got out the
anything like
car
that.
and left it at the intersection. I was like, no, this couldn't have just happened.
Was it bleeding? Did it break the skin?
He did break the skin, so I did have to go to the ER. And well, that's not something you want to talk to people about. It's like, I'm already red dot hot, so can you treat me? Because I had to go to work. I was working retail at the time, and I had to meet the public. So I had to literally wear my weaves long over here to cover it. My manager saw it, and she was like, I don't even want to hear the story you're going to tell me. I'm documenting this because I know that you're not going to tell me the truth. So again, someone else was seeing what I was not seeing. Even though I saw what happened, now I'm like, okay, I'm already in this. Now what do I do? But that's the first situation. Should have been the last, but it wasn't.
Now this is good to talk about, Carla, right here where she said, now she just described the first one. And every single person this week, every single person I say, what did you go back? They all did. And I'm not going to make this show about that because you never know what you're going to do until you're in that situation. So I definitely empathize with you guys with that. But what is it in that one moment? Like, she knew this is not right, that she got out of the car. But did you go back?
I went back home first.
Okay.
And of course, it was I want to say the romance phase. It was like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it, blah, blah, blah. Now, we already had our guards up. We're not going through this again. So we're going to have to take steps into this. You're going to have to talk to somebody. He was like, yeah, I'll go see somebody. He ain't never seen not a soul.
So he told you he would get some help.
He never did.
And he never did. So was there another time when he hit you? When he
It
physically?
was January 2012. I was there and a girl came knocking on the door. And I was like, yeah, this is it. Now you're on top of all the nonsense. You're cheating. No. So I said, whatever's there, I can replace. Still no kids at the time, or I thought. And I left. I walked out in such a rage. I didn't hear him coming behind me. He ran up and knocked me unconscious. And on this side of my face, I can't see words. I can only see blurs. My eyes that damaged where I can't make out figures. If I'm driving, I turn my whole head to the side. I can see shadows. I can't see as well as I can out this eye. And when I went to the hospital, he drove me there and sat there while I was being triaged. The nurse picked up and documented. The police could only document what you tell them.
Right.
And I couldn't say anything because he's literally right there. My whole eye is like swollen shut.
But they had to know it was him.
I'm pretty sure they may have noted it may have been, but if you don't say it, they don't have anything to go off.
Carla, there's got to be a way around that because she was afraid. He was sitting right there.
Right. And even if she, I mean, and this sounds awful, even if she had to look directly at the officer and said he did this, I mean, whatever was written in that report wouldn't have said that. It would have most likely not said exactly what you have said happened. And luckily, the nurse did notice that something was wrong, and she documented it. But
Shavonna, did you ever tell the police? Maybe not right then.
They did know. It's
Okay.
made as far as back to all the precincts that were governing those districts. They do know. The DV officers in my region and his know. The court system knows. Pretty much all the authorities, ACS knows. And now it's like a waiting game. Like, well, you couldn't do anything then. So if he does something to you again.
Right.
But we don't want to wait for again.
So what happened next? Was there another time?
So unfortunately, while I was at Peninsula Hospital, they were, they do the basic tests. As a woman, I found out I was pregnant at that time. So now he hears this. It was a sealed deal. They're like, that's when I figured, all right, this is over, because what am I supposed to do? Now I'm having your kid. The February following was the complete breakaway physically, because he called my mom and put her on speakerphone on my brother's birthday and held a 5-pound weight over my head and threatened to crack my skull while I'm still pregnant because I wanted to leave.
Okay, wait a minute. Let's go back. Okay, where were you guys? Where were you?
Far Rockaway, New York.
Okay, so what were you trying to leave that made him do this?
Yes.
You were trying to leave.
And there was a witness there. His brother was there and said he wasn't even getting involved.
So there was someone there and they didn't get involved. They didn't say, hey, man, don't do that. Stop. She's pregnant. What are you doing? And he called them on the phone and said,
called my mom on my brother's birthday and let them listen. And they heard me begging for my life that day.
Did you think he was going to kill you?
I'm sure he would have, but I would have risked it because I was leaving. I already made up my mind that day I was leaving. So if I didn't make it, I was going to die trying.
So when he told them that, and what did your mom say? What did she say?
My mom, she was able to pick up my locator on my phone. So she was able to call somebody to send them to me to meet me halfway. So while I'm walking, they're looking at the tracker and they're able to see where I was walking. Because I was like, however it is, I'm going to walk back to Rosedale. I'm going to do it. And they met me partway, took me back. One of my relatives went back to get my things. So I wouldn't have to go back over there. But during the pregnancy...
Was he still there when you went back to the house?
He was still there. I didn't go back. I had someone else go back.
They went back. Okay.
They went back.
Good for you.
Good for you. I like this, what she did, though. I hope you guys caught that. The tracker on the phone. There's a lot of little things that we can be picking up that we should do. And how do you do that? Because there may be some people that don't know how to do that.
Depending on your phone plan, you can, like, it's a parenting app. You can link it even though you're of age. I still have certain things on my phone so my mom can know if anything and I'm in the area too long and I'm not shopping there or meeting with somebody. It's like a red flag, like, hey, something's wrong. she's not moving, or the phone is lost. Either way, something or someone's triggering it to go back and find what's happening in that area. So even to
Very
this day, I'm
smart.
35, I still have trackers on all my devices.
Very smart. I like it. I hope you guys got that. Okay, so they go back, they get your things, and then take us through the timeline. What happens next?
So we're talking about the pregnancy now, going through the prenatals. The hospital flagged him for no entry because, of course, they triage you when you go for pregnancy. The prenatals, they ask you if you're in a violent situation, are you safe at home? I told him no. So he wasn't allowed to be
How
there.
far along were you during this?
When I found out I was pregnant was when he hit me in the face and I was in the hospital. And they followed me throughout the whole pregnancy. My hospitals are not in the city, they're all in the county. So their laws are a lot stricter in Nassau and Suffolk. He wasn't allowed in the hospitals for any visits. So what he would do, he'd lay wait until I came back. And the most violent situation while pregnant, he seen when I was around my area, like I'm free to walk around. By this time I had got rid of my car because whatever damage was incurred while we were dating, I couldn't keep the car. I had to total it. He
So
kicked
what
me in
happened
my
to the
back while
car? What happened to the
he
car?
it's a flag car because people see him in it. It's like they know that to be a car he travels in, and because of his activities, I couldn't keep the car.
Now let's go. Let's talk about some of those activities because I took notes from
Mhm.
I read your story and I took a lot of notes. You said that he had you the packages. You guys were delivering packages.
It wasn't a you guys, it was a him guys.
Him. Okay.
I was not doing that. So for the record, I'm clean as a whistle. He had his friends doing whatever drugs they were dealing in Far Rockaway. And he had to be in the house at 9 o'clock. So he's like, oh, come pick me up so I can get back home before curfew. This is before it got crazy. And I was like, all right, no problem, I'll come get you. But he would always come with a friend. These friends would have packages. And I'm like, you're not going to have my car marked for delivering anything because this is not what this car is for.
Right.
And unfortunately, what I did not want to happen happened. My car was marked. And certain situations, which because of legal proceedings right now, I can't even fully discuss, took place. I had to scrap down my car.
Wow, because he would take your car. I guess he figured you guys lived together, so it was
Mhm.
y'all's car, right?
That was my first car coming out of high school. Can't even find those cars anymore.
Wow. So it's like now you've decided to be with this guy and you're losing stuff. You're losing little by
Everything.
little.
Losing everything.
So let's talk about because this is the part that really got me. When you went to the hospital and he gave you a ride from the hospital. Let's talk about that. What happened that you ended up getting out?
So I'm in the passenger side and he grabs me by my throat while we're driving. He's
While
upset.
driving, he
He's
grabbed you by your
driving.
throat.
He's here and his hand is here. And
And you're
because
pregnant with his
he
child.
didn't care.
Didn't care, yeah.
It went from there to when I got out the car, I decided my pregnancy was already high risk. I'm gonna make it back either to my house or the hospital, but we're not gonna be in the same vicinity. So he took his time of following me in the car because I wasn't getting back in. So he just got frustrated enough. We're back by my area now. And he gets out, he kicks me in my back. I'm pregnant still. This is my almost 8-9 month of pregnancy. And I'm being punched, I'm being kicked, I'm being choked.
On the
And
street, on the
on
side
the
of the street.
it was one of my neighbors who got another neighbor to get him off me. And that resulted in my child being born way earlier than planned. Even though we made it to almost the mark, because it's a higher risk, they want you to get to the T.
Right.
And we didn't make it. She's here, but we had to be in the hospital earlier than planned.
Wow. So what were you thinking? Were you thinking like, this guy is going to kill me right here on the side of the street? Did that cross your mind?
That still crosses my mind because he's not incarcerated.
Right.
It still crosses my mind because anytime he gets into a flare, and it's not even just me, my biggest concern is for my daughter, the daughter we share, because she's 8 right now. She doesn't understand what took place between me and her father. So a lot of the things that he can't do to me, he's mentally manipulating her. And I see the change in her behavior. I see she has a lot more sad days than an 8-year-old should. And as a mom, I have to game face it because I can't let you know that what you're going through is literally killing me. And I got to have a complete and full strategy now because I got to beat you at your own game. with my child.
Okay, so let's go back to when you were on the side of the street, because I really want to get the whole story. So you're on the side of the street. He kicked you. They called the police and whomever to come and get you. You go back into the hospital because you just got out of the hospital and you had to go right back because he gave you this beating. What happened when you made it into that hospital?
My daughter's heart rate was dropping, so we had it early.
Wow. Okay.
And was he charged when that happened, when he beat you on the street?
Oh, snap. Are
Nope.
you serious?
It's so twisted and we had to come to this realization in one of my last meetings that I hate that they get to choose what they come to and what they report to and when. It pains me because it's like things like this will always be a problem. It's always going to be a problem. And I think there was a thing that passed some years back where they get to choose if they get involved, where officers get to choose if they get involved and give reports. Nobody came for that. I have it on record in Nassau County. So if it happened in Nassau County, it would have happened and they would have reported. He would have been locked up. They don't do central bookings in the counties. They put you straight into jail. In the boroughs, it's a whole litigation process. They give you a slap on the wrist. Don't do it again. Keep away from her. Temp order of protection until you come back to court. And it's a bunch of bouncing around. And that, honestly, that process in itself for victims is the most detrimental because it stirs more anger for the abuser, puts us in more danger. And a lot of times they'll never make it back to court because
this is why people don't report it
at all, because they're not going to help you.
Okay, so when you went back to the hospital, he wasn't with you. You were in the ambulance. He left.
Yep.
But you told him it was him who did this to you.
I told him everything in the county. He cannot go near those hospitals. Not the one that I work for, not the one that I deliver. And I had 2 more children after him. And they still ask to this day, like when I go back and take them for physicals, is he still a problem? Not so much, but yes.
So did he ever go to jail? And all of this time that you were being abused?
The only time he went to jail is when he violated the orders, and I found an officer that was willing to actually go forward. And that was when I ended up going into tier 1, tier 2 housing. This was when I was dealing with somebody else. He threatened to leave me and my kids in our own bloodshed. He was not going to let me marry somebody else.
Now let's go back to that, because that's one of the things I said when we introduced you. Take us through that. What led him to say that?
He did not want to see me around anybody else. That was his thing. He was like, if I'm not going to have you, nobody else is going to have you.
And he threatened to kill the child.
He threatened to kill me and my kids. Both my daughters at the time. Now I have 3. He threatened to kill both my children.
Did he have any weapons when you lived with him?
He has access. He doesn't keep them in the house, but he has access.
Oh my God. Are you afraid of him still?
I'm more afraid for my daughter. Because it's a lot of don't tell mommy situations.
Right.
And that bothers me.
Don't tell mommy situations?
Don't tell mommy situations. So she'll be places she shouldn't be, or there'll be people around her that shouldn't be around her. It hasn't come to a point where someone's touched her because she's going to tell me. But it's a lot of things that it makes her cry when she comes back to me. So she just doesn't know how to say it. She's 8.
He gets visits with her?
Unsupervised, overnights.
The unsupervised?
Get it? Yeah.
No.
Because this parental alienation thing, they can't do it. They can't take the kid.
And he doesn't have any domestic violence charges, right? I mean, he only...
Not for me, but he has it on record that he is abusive.
Right. So, and yeah, I hate that for you.
We're still in court now. And he's fighting to not take the order of protection. He doesn't want it.
I don't believe this. I'm so shocked that all of this that happened to you, you didn't really get any justice, Shavonna.
The only justice survivors or victims will get is in the grave. That's the only time there'll be justice. It's this is what happens. If you don't have a paper trail, they'll never know. But a sad point of it is they don't really do anything until one of us dies.
Well, and they don't even do anything then a lot of times.
No, it's more of a let me dust this under the rug and look good for press.
Yeah.
But they don't care. They don't care. They do not care.
Now, I'm trying to think, is this in New York or is this something that we can say is worldwide, that this happens?
I will say this is worldwide. I don't think it's just a New York thing. I think it's just going to be more elevated in certain areas because more of us are willing to come out and shame people with it. Really talk about what's not being done for us. If
mean,
we all
Carla,
get together and speak, they'll do something then, because it's shameful for the state of New York, especially, to have this happening. But other than that,
but Carla, we have to lead her in some kind of direction. Like what? I
Well,
mean, there has to be something.
you know, we hear so often with everyone that we've ever spoken to and have situations like this. Um, you know, some people report it, some people don't. I am a huge, huge, huge advocate of reporting everything. And, you know, even a big issue is different precincts don't talk to each other, and different counties and different states, they don't talk to each other. So, you know, when, like for me, I had charges in 3 different counties in South Carolina, a county in Georgia, like it, you know, and I had charges in all of these places and reports in all these places, but no one talks to each other. So until it like literally blew up, that's when everything kind of comes together and you can see the real history of this. And it is so fortunate because when you do finally get someone's attention, and a lot of times you get law enforcement's attention is when it's so bad, there is an actual record. This isn't his first time. I mean, there's a history there. So I do tell people to always report it, even if it's not significant, even if it's just harassing text messages, and half the time when you report it, the uniformed officer who's taking that report is not going to even put hardly anything on there of what you said correctly, but it's some sort of a paper trail that proves that this is habitual, and there is a history of that there. And and you said it yourself, you were like, nothing had really ever been reported before, so there was no paper trail, and that may or may not have changed any sort of outcome. But specifically when they were on when they are on probation or parole, report it every time. I don't care if they look at you sideways, report it, because then that every time that happens, somebody eventually, that'll all catch up to them. And whether or not it's, and hopefully whatever happens doesn't kill you. And that's sadly just the way that it is. And that's what we are all fighting to changing that behavior and changing the laws.
So talk to us a little bit about his friends stalking you. You mentioned in your story that his friends even stalked you.
yes. So I have a corner lot. It's a ranch, so we have pretty much half that side of the block, and it's an open yard. So I like to be outside. I like to barbecue, things like that. And they would drive up and take pictures of who's in my yard, report back to him, or they'll just stand off and watch the flow, whoever comes back and forth. Now, mind you, we work here, so you can't really tell who's coming here from who's not. We have an after school. We've lost people and clients because nobody wants to send their children for after school in the area where things like this is happening. So we have that. We have the random messages on Facebook. We have the random phone calls, third-party calls, weird texts. It's disgusting, but he finds his ways.
So tell me about ACS. Who is that?
Administration for Children's Services, our lovely friends here in New York State. So he's managed to begin something called abuse by proxy. He uses ACS or NYPD to gain access to myself, my children, everything, to track me. I just found out that, and thankfully we're leaving very soon, that my next address can be private. I have to have everything for me mailed to Albany now, and Albany will deem if it's safe for me to get it. So I hate to say, but they're screening my mail, they're screening my packages. That's fine. But because my address right now is known by him, he will call ACS and make false reports like, oh, my child's neglected, she doesn't eat.
Oh,
There's 4 refrigerators in my house. My children are overfed completely. If I don't do anything else, I feed my kids. I feed other people's kids. Or my house has mice in it. I'm OCD with cleanliness, so that was impossible. When they come, they look at my house and it's like, this is a waste of time. Like, This
Right.
is a malicious
So why
call.
don't they get him? Why don't they get him for making these
Because of
false
the nature
reports?
of everything, they can only report it and record it that, okay, this person does this, but because it's children, they have to still come out and then assess and then determine if it's malicious or not. So they're going to still do it. Except now, when I move, if he does it again, I get to report to the office. They can't come to my house at all. And my PD, he'll call. The last one he did was October. And he alleged that my child was being bullied by her sibling. My other child is 6. So when the cops came, I didn't know they were here for me. I literally just had the baby. I was breastfeeding my youngest. And I look outside, it's like 4 paddy wagons outside on my corner, and like they blocked it off. I was like, okay, somebody's getting a sting. That's what it looks like. They had the big trucks outside, and it's a bunch of officers like standoff everywhere. I didn't know they were coming for me. So they came to the gate with him. And I said, he shouldn't be allowed near my fence. Man, we're here to talk to you, want to see your daughter. What the hell is going on? Nobody has a body cam on. Every one of y'all have weapons and your hands are on them. So I'm nervous. I have my child still latched on, mind you. I didn't even think to put her down. My children are crying hysterically now. And then the officer was saying, oh, well, the report is that your daughter, London, was being bullied. I said, at what time was the report made? And she told me the time. I said, that's impossible because at that time, she was with him on a parental visit. So how was she being bullied? And I said, bullied by who? Her sister. My 6-year-old. So my baby thought they were coming to take her. She was like, please don't kill me. Well, they see
Oh
what
my
happens in the news, so
gosh.
they're over traumatized. And he's over there verbally assaulting behind these officers, trying to get to me. I'm like, this is a problem. You guys know what's happening. You see the record. But no one's thinking that this is a false call. And then the officer was like, well, we're going to call this a wellness check. With all of y'all officers, there's a sea of blue outside. That's not a wellness check. I
That
know a wellness check. 2 officers in an unmarked car is a wellness check. And this is not that. The DV unit came 2 days after, and I had them look into it. They said something's wrong with this report. I'm like, yeah, a lot. A whole lot. And he uses them to get to me.
Wow. Do you have a lot of support, Shabana?
I have a lot. Thank God, or else I could not stand the way I stand right now. This would break an average person.
I also read in your report, which was very alarming to me, that when you were pregnant, you didn't get prenatal care. You were kind of,
Nope. I had to get what I could at the end.
wow. And is that because you were just depressed? Were you,
Not depressed. I couldn't go. Couldn't
you
go.
couldn't go?
Could not go. They got to
Why?
me like the mid part of my second trimester.
Okay, why couldn't you go?
Well, I wasn't trying to be seen outside by him. And again, the car that I had to get rid of it. And my hospital that I go to is not easy to get to. It's way in the midst of the county. So if you don't have a car, you can't get to it. And at the time, I wasn't able to work. Like, I was not coming outside. My face was just, I couldn't clear up. All of this was still bruised. And I'm
Okay.
still learning to get around, but I can't see. Now I can like manage with my partial vision. But in the beginning, it was impossible. I had to learn new ways to move around my house. I'm trying to figure adaptive methods. It was hard.
Okay, so am I understanding that you didn't get prenatal care because of the way you were looking? You know, you were always bruised, you couldn't see,
I couldn't see and I
and you
couldn't
couldn't
get there.
drive that car.
I
What
could
about
not.
a clinic or something close by where you
I
lived?
needed a high risk. That's the
Oh, you
thing.
needed high
So
risk.
because I needed a certain high risk, that was the top tier high risk in the boroughs, or at least the boroughs county, like the state. So you had to go to that one if you were found to be that high of a risk where that
Right.
child would die without their care. The testing that they did, it's A1. Like, they'll catch a sickness before it's fully blown, and they'll fix it before it's fully blown, which they managed
So
to do with my second child.
so you were able to at least get in before you delivered,
Oh
though.
yeah, I got
Yeah,
in there. I met the whole care team. They were able to
that's
catch
good.
me in the middle of the second trimester, so like my hypertension and things like that, they were able to regulate it. So the delivery would be normal as long as I wouldn't be stressed. That's one thing they kept emphasizing: do not get stressed out.
yeah.
Your body can't take it, and it proved to be true when that situation took place, and I had to have her early.
And she's okay?
She is as okay as an 8-year-old can be.
Oh,
She's good. She still
wow.
has, and that's the thing with having a child that sees trauma and knows what's going on. Is she has her days. She definitely has her days, but overall, that's my baby. Like, I understand her.
So you basically got out because you just said that's enough. I'm out, and you had to go through a
I
lot
couldn't
of
baby go through that. Not seeing
yeah.
that every day, and she won't know health if she doesn't see health in me. She
Right.
won't see strength. She's not going to know anything positive if I was to stay. I can't teach her to get away from these situations if I'm staying in it.
Now, Carla, do you think it did something to your kids for them to see?
Yeah, for sure. Mine were 2 and 3 at the time, and my 3-year-old for sure. She's almost 5 now. But I mean, it affected her, and I had her in therapy for months afterwards, and then my youngest, who's sitting right here with me,
Yeah.
she won't go to bed. Um, she just mimics everything that her sister says. So it definitely, and there's little triggers for them. I was actually talking to one of my best friends 2 nights ago, and we were talking about childhood trauma and when they're that young and things that they remember. And, there are little bitty triggers that'll trigger a memory with my kids. But honestly, they're so little. In 2 years, what they remember from 2 years ago, they won't remember 2 years from now. And
That's good.
it is so great. It's so great. And but absolutely it affects their trauma response, their response to you as a mother, and that fear of possibly losing you. Like, they can sense and feel every single bit of that. And it is definitely, it's scary for them. It's
So
really,
that's awesome for you, Shavana, that you protected your babies from that. Kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
But you're going through hell, though. You're still
It's
going
not
through it.
over because
Yeah.
she's still here. I'm still here. It's gonna keep going because the system's not gonna change. I don't
So
see them.
what frustrates you more, the abuse or the fact that you don't have protection?
The fact that I don't have protection, the fact that I have to keep explaining what happened to me to these judges and the lawyers that they give you, even if you find one that you pay, it's like they have to follow the book. To have to keep going through the issues with ACS, to try to keep strong for these kids, and it's impossible because she knows something's wrong. Like what you mentioned, Carla, just now, it's a big thing. Like, she was afraid to go to school. It showed
right.
in her work. Like, daddy's gonna hurt you. I don't want to leave you. She wants to stay by me. Like, this whole pandemic was probably her best time ever because she was with me every day. But let me go to the store, and she's in tears every time until I come back.
So they're afraid of him too.
Yeah, they're
So
afraid
why
to do
don't you
something
tell
to me.
yes that? I don't want him to visit anymore because my daughter says she's afraid of him.
We try to order a COI, which is a court order investigation, and the judge, because of COVID, she's like, I'm not going to order it. The worker has to call me, and I taped it. I taped the
Oh,
hearing because I'm like, this is completely ridiculous. You have to give us a COI. Because of
Right.
COVID, they're dragging their feet, and they're not going to just do it because we ask. It has to be a reason. It has to be something to show, like, this is why. Or they're going to say, I'm alienating a parent. I'm trying to restrict him from seeing his kid, and I could lose custody of my daughter.
you could end up
I
losing
can lose
custody.
custody because you have some law officials here that they'll say, oh, you're being spiteful, and they'll take your child from you. And I can't see that happening because that's not my intent. So it's like I kind of have to dance with the devil. If he wants more visit days, we got to see days that work because it's like, oh, she's not letting me see my daughter. And it comes down on me like, well, why? They forget that he abused the hell out of me and still
So is it
finds ways.
because he doesn't have a charge that he's able to still see her?
It's because of how the laws are set up where they say, well, he's a dad. He has to have parenting time.
Oh,
Until something happens to her, they're not going to take it away.
oh my God.
Like, even if she was to say to her lawyer, she doesn't want to see her dad, the judge isn't going to hear it until she's about 16.
So as it stands today, as we're sitting here looking at you today, what is your state of mind? Where's your head? Where's your right now, your thoughts? You seem drained.
I
Does it
am. I
yeah.
am. Because it's like I'm fighting for freedom and I don't see it happening anytime soon. At least when she's of age, I'll feel a little better because you have no need to talk to me. But anything could happen. And I feel like we're pawns on a board when it comes to this domestic violence battle. because they're not going to move until something on our side moves. And it's like, okay, we have a reason now. We're not going to do this back and forth. It's tiring. I'm in court every 2 weeks. It's a lot.
Wow. What would you like to, what kind of words of encouragement can you give her, Carla, based on the advocacy work that you've done that you think she can
Keep
draw from?
fighting, keep reporting, keep documenting. There are a lot of organizations that can hire or who offer legal resources for free if you don't have an attorney. There are so many different organizations that will help you with legal representation, because it is, I mean, you can't go to these places, you don't know the laws, you don't know the statutes, you don't know all these things, and them as fathers, they have so many rights that they should not have, and it is really frustrating. And so just keep doing it and keep going. And I know it's really hard, but you know, as long as what you're doing, it'll every single time that you make a report or you go back to court and your story is the same every single time, eventually you're going to get in front of a judge that's going to hear that and it's going to look back and say, oh my God, why? It's been 8 years, y'all. Why are we still here? I mean, and that's what needs to happen. It's been 8 years and you've been in court for 8 years. This is insane.
It would have closed. We had a judge who was riding this court case since 2012, and she was ready to do what she had to do. He reported to the state that she was racist and had her removed from the case. So now we have somebody new who's like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm going to do this. So I got to go through all of this again.
I'm so sorry.
I mean, I'll be the sheep sent to slaughter for this if it's going to change for somebody else. Because at this point, I can't be going through this in vain. So let me go through this. Let me do all of this now so I can guide the next one that's going to unfortunately have to go through this.
Yeah.
So I'll take this. This is all I have to take for that. Then I'll take this.
Now, Parpel here, she made an interesting comment. That's kind of what we're saying. She said, and that is why people don't want to report. Going to court is no fun, especially when the other person thinks it is a joke.
Yep.
Do you guys all agree with that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we have the other side of it, because, we have this little nice note under here saying if you're a victim of domestic violence, call the National Domestic Hotline. And, at least to give people somewhere to start. And I think when you call that hotline, they do offer resources, right, Carla?
They do. And really, wherever you are, I mean, definitely call that number. That's a great number to call, and they can put you in touch with someone locally. But find out what your local resources are. If you don't know, you can reach out to me and I'll find them out for you. Every county has, and every city, state, and some are better than others for sure. But they have resources for everyone, and they may not be abundant, but a lot of times they can help you find if you need housing or if you need help financially or if you need legal representation or whatever. There are definitely different areas and support groups, y'all. It's crazy. I mean, seriously, talk to somebody, find a group. We have online groups. There's so many different groups. Talking to other women and other men who have experienced what you've experienced, there is nothing like it. It is like it is a bond, and it's a group of people who only understand what you've ever been through, and it's so important to have. And you can just let it all out, and that is huge. So definitely find people to talk to, even if it's just one person that you trust. Please reach out to someone, because that alone changes so much in your own soul.
And then I think that secretly you have to kind of start making a plan too, and being strategic about it. Putting things together, getting your bank and your money together, knowing where you're gonna go, and just because sometimes you may have to just leave without anything. With the shirt on your back, but at least you have something already on you that you'll need to make things happen quickly, like your bank card, different things like that. But it sounds to me like, Shavonna, you just kind of walked out. You were like, listen, okay, I know you have the weight over my head, but I'm out of here, buddy. I'm out. You were done.
That's it.
Yeah.
You were done. I mean, this guy could have caused you to lose your baby. And so that's a wrap right there. Well, I'm glad to see that you're still alive. I'm glad that you're hanging in there. I know it's hard. I feel it. I feel it coming all the way through the computer here. I feel it, that you are just drained. But I just want to encourage you to keep going, so that when you come back to the Ella Johnson show, you can tell people, okay, guys, this is what you need to do. Because that's what I'm waiting for someone to come back to this broadcast and be able to say, okay, guys, I have it all figured out. Here's the plan from A to Z. Like, this is how you need to do it, and just prepare them, because a lot of people don't have the resources or don't know the stuff that you guys know. So they're just sitting there, praying to God that he'll get tired of beating them. I can't imagine that people are in their home, they're adults, and they're sitting there being beaten and don't know when the next beating is going to come. Don't know if he's going to take the kids out. You don't know if he's going to kill you in your sleep. Like, you're like sitting there just from day to day. That has to be stressful.
It is a form of torture that is so, it's torture.
Wow. Well, you know what? We're going to talk to you now, Phil. Because I want to come back to you too, Shavonna, before we go, so you can talk a little bit more. But we're going to talk to you, Mr. Phil. How are you sitting over there? You're just so patiently waiting.
I'm in awe of the story. I'm just like, wow.
No. Yeah.
That's
it does something when you hear someone else going through it. And but let's talk about you. You tell us a little bit about your childhood and how you grew up in teenage years. Tell us a little bit about that.
My childhood I'd say it was a pretty good childhood. I had both my parents, still living today. We grew up in Florida, where you're at now.
Yeah.
Not too far from where you're at. I'd say it's pretty, wasn't too eventful.
Yeah, I was going to say pretty uneventful. So it sounds uneventful.
Like. Yeah, my dad, he was a minister. My mom's a registered nurse, and
my dad
did all finishing as well. So we kind of grew up in the church and stuff. So
So you had a strong religious background.
Yeah, very religious. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that makes me understand a whole lot then about you, just knowing that, because I'm going to assume that that's probably why you were willing to take what you took. Yeah. So let's talk about when you started dating. What kind of girls did you like?
That's the other thing. I didn't date in high school and stuff. Even in college, it was just kind of my focus was always I need to finish my degree, and then after I get.
So you were pretty focused. You didn't have time for it.
Yeah, I just kind of saw it as that, and same thing with my upbringing. I didn't have sex either. I didn't have sex until I was married, and so.
I thought I would never meet someone. I finally did.
It's a lot of dudes like that, though. There is. We just don't say it out loud because, it's kind of like a joke. When you talk about it,
I'm impressed. Yeah, I don't think it's a joke at all. I'm just how did you do it? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Like I said, my little brother, he's the same way. He did the same thing.
Really?
We just kind of we were raised to do that, so we kind of did that.
So let me ask you a question. The first lady that you dated, is she the one that abused you?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So let's talk about this first lady. How did you meet her?
No, that was my wife. That was who I got married to. So my plan was after college, going into the Army, I was okay, after I finish Ranger school, that's gonna be when I get married, because my career is set, right? So I do all that, and next thing you know, the radio announcer. I do all that, and next thing you know, I'm okay, I'm in deployment in Iraq and stuff, and my whole life just changes. It's it's a surreal experience. I'm an infantry officer. It's my first combat tour, and I'm just seeing stuff that I never thought my whole entire life would ever see. And so I come back, and so I have this whole new outlook on life. I'm just I need to go ahead and settle down. And so in talking with my parents and stuff, like my dad kind of introduces this girl. He's like, hey, I seen this girl who is this woman who I feel like God says is a good worship person in church and stuff. So like I need to introduce y'all.
So your dad's trying to hook you up.
Pretty much.
Oh, okay. It's a good girl, boy. You better get this girl right here. Okay.
So the problem with that is like I just kind of like 6 months later just married her and didn't
6
really
months.
Get to know her. Yeah. And
okay, so what did you guys date? Did you?
It was kind of like it was like a long distance thing for a while, and then I like moved her out to where I was at, and then actually no, I didn't move her out. I just flew her out to visit and stuff, and I flew back. I would always fly back and forth, and then
so you were in Florida then?
No, I was stationed in Fort Hood.
You were in Fort Hood, and where was she?
Yeah, she was out here in Virginia.
In Virginia, okay.
Yeah.
So you guys were having a long distance relationship. Everything was good. She wasn't acting crazy yet, right?
Not yet, no.
She was acting like a good girl then, right?
Yeah, like the best thing ever.
You put that ring on her finger, and all hell broke loose, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, take us to hell. Tell us about how that was.
I mean, I kind of saw it change like immediately, like so I got married, and then like about a month or so later, I had to like go on my next deployment, back to Iraq, and so it was basically in Iraq where things just kind of like took a downturn. It was just like constant arguments out of nowhere, like just a lot of times about like money or whatever, like she constantly had to send money to her family and stuff. It was just like stuff I just couldn't understand. And
now,
so,
was she
like,
working?
No.
So you were paying everything, and so she was taking the money in the bank and sending it to her family.
Yeah, I mean,
did she ask you at least? Did she ask you?
I mean, she did ask me. There was one instance where, like, I was going to Ranger School for a second time, and there's a break you get in between Ranger School where you come back and you refit and stuff, and you go visit your family if they live close by. I was down at Fort Benning, and like. I'd given her a couple checks and stuff because I knew she had like an issue with like just like throwing the money away and stuff. And so
did you ever address her? Did you ever address her about that? How she
I did. And so that's why we came up with the plan with, okay, I'm gonna give these checks. So like, you're not like just taking the card and just like blowing it. And so I come back and I check the bank account and I'm like, I've been gone for a bit, like there should be like more money in here. Like maybe like there's some like credit or something going on. I don't know what's going on. I come and talk to her, and I actually open up the laptop and look at the account. I'm like, whoa, where are these charges coming from? And then I see like there's a strip clubs on there. There's like the food
strip clubs.
Yeah, she's going to strip clubs. She's
wait a minute, you sister. Can pay. Are you paying with a strip club with a card?
She used the check because I use the checks for emergency. I said they were for emergencies because she got cash there. So I'm like, use these for emergencies when they come up. So she basically wrote $1,000 each. Well, I say each check, but she spent $4,500 in the span of like 2 weeks.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's a little sticky. Okay, so when you got home, how did you address this?
So I mean, I just came home and I'm just like, hey, like like what's going on? Like I opened up the bank account and I'm showing her the bank account. And I'm just like, all these charges, like that's $4,500, like in 2 weeks, like. And she just kind of broke down and cried, and she was just like, I'm sorry.
Strategy.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I would have cried too. There was no way out, right?
Yeah, I mean,
you got me. So let me put on the tears.
So I'm just like, I just kind of console her. I'm like, it's okay. Like, we'll get through this. Like, we just gotta like be smarter about, huh?
That's so what she wanted.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. Like, I didn't date anybody, so I didn't know.
You didn't know that this was not normal. You didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't. There's a lot of stuff I just
don't. Yeah.
I mean, even being in the relationship, like the whole time, like I'm getting beaten, all this stuff. Like I didn't know I was in an abusive relationship. I mean, for one, being a man, like, and I didn't find out till.
Okay, so what did she say? Let's go back to these checks. Okay. What did she say when you addressed her about the checks? I mean, she cried, and that was it. She just left it alone.
She was sorry, like she didn't know, she didn't realize she was spending so much money.
Okay, so you let it go after that.
Yeah, I'm just like, we'll work,
Okay.
we'll work
Oh, you're
through it and
such a
stuff.
nice guy.
Oh, you got to call Dave Ramsey. We're going to put you on a budget. This is how.
Okay, so take us to the first time you saw her really start to change.
So, like I said, it was during the deployment where like she started arguing. We started just like constantly arguing about like the money. Like, I mean, I'm like, we should be saving it. Like, why did like it was always this thing with like she had to send money to her mom, and I'm like, why does your mom constantly need money all the time, all of a sudden? And it was just like $300 here, 200 here, 300 here, two. And it's just like it's an emergency. It's an emergency. You have to send it. And I'm just like, I mean, your mom's just like draining our bank account.
And it probably wasn't her mom at all.
Oh, it was her mom. It was her
Really?
mom. It was her mom, her sister, or like, I mean, and that's the other thing. Like the background with her family was like a lot different. Like, I mean, like I was raised differently. Like we waited for marriage. Like she had a different upbringing. Like she had a lot of dudes under her belt, and like her mom, like unfortunately was a prostitute when she was growing up and stuff, and her mom would brag about like killing a dude and stuff, and I'm just like, I didn't know this stuff till after I was married to her. And then her sister was an actual stripper. Like I knew that, and like but yeah, it was a weird family dynamic, and the reason I went into it, like, I was
Sounds
just like,
completely
I'm not,
opposite from yours. Completely opposite.
the reason I went along with it, I'm just like, I'm just not gonna judge a person. Like, she was good to me, and I was just like, I'm just gonna we're just gonna make this work.
You just wanted to make it work. So when's the first time she put her hands on you?
Let's see. Man, it's kind of hard to pinpoint the first time because it happens a lot. Like, especially with a guy, like, you don't even, I mean, it's kind of like what Gene said. Like, you just kind of take it, because it's just kind of like I'm bigger, I'm stronger, so like it doesn't like hurt as much. So she just kind of like gets mad and starts hitting you. I remember it always started with like pinching. Like she would just pinch and twist, and I get always like sometimes she twists my skin off and stuff. I'm just like, can you please stop? And because I wouldn't like yell or scream or something like that,
she was trying to provoke you.
Right. She wouldn't like, she wouldn't stop, like, because she's just like, it doesn't hurt you. It doesn't hurt you. I'm just like, it does hurt, and you need to stop, please. And, it just, from there, like, the fights would get, like, I remember, and it's crazy, like, the fights would always be about, like a lot of times about, like, if a girl, like, contacted me on, like, Facebook or MySpace. And I felt like the way to alleviate that, because I worked all the time, I'm like, you know what? You can have all my passwords. You can have my passwords to the email, to MySpace.
Now, I don't know
Facebook.
a man that offers that.
Yeah.
You are definitely atypical. I don't know a man who would offer their passwords. So
Like
you
I
offered
said,
her your passwords.
Like I said, I didn't date, so I didn't know. So I was just like free game. Like it was just like
You didn't realize that was a major red flag that she was,
I had no clue. So I gave her everything. And I mean, it was so crazy because I was like, oh, if she has it, then she can see it come before I see it. And like, I'm not even checking this stuff. So there's no issue. Like, she's the one on there. Like, she's logging in. It's not me. It's her. Like, no issue. Like, if I get a voicemail, like, just check it before I check it. Like, that's how I felt about it.
Because you wanted her to feel secure. You wanted her to be secure in the relationship. Right.
It was still an issue. And I mean, until this day, like, I had friends always telling me, like, yo, she's accusing you of cheating. Like, that means she's cheating, bro. And I would just, like, I would go off on them. Like, no, that's my wife. Like, she would never cheat. She would never.
So you never thought she was cheating? You never considered that?
Never. I mean, I'm telling you, I mean, like, people would tell me that, and I would just, like, I would borderline just, like, like, push them down or something. Because, like, I didn't do that. But, I mean, I would just be upset. I'm like, that's my wife. Like, she would never do that.
Did you ask them why they felt that she was cheating? Maybe they knew something.
Yeah, I mean, they try to explain it and stuff, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would somebody accuse me of cheating if they're cheating? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Now looking back, it's like, oh, it makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense. Yeah.
It kind of like takes the visor off of her, huh?
They project whatever it is that they're doing onto you, and they try to victimize themselves.
Yes.
Because I just saw a recent video about, like, if if your spouse or significant other just like randomly gives you a gift or something, I wouldn't say like in marriage, but if it's like, you know, girlfriend or boyfriend, like a lot of times like that's a sign of cheating. Like she just like he or she just cheated and they felt guilty, and that's why they gave you this like random gift out of nowhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of little signs and red flags that make you go, wait, hold on. And then if you've experienced this multiple times, you can start to see the pattern of that. And okay, well, they accused me of this, and then they were actually doing something that same time. And then, you know, there's always a pattern that you can follow, and you can definitely see where all those little stereotypes and those little coincidences happen. And it's true. They all, that's all said for a reason, because
Yeah.
a lot of times it's true.
What's the worst thing she did to you, Phil?
Let's see. One of the worst things she did was like she sent me to work with a black eye. And she sent me to work with a black eye and then spun it around as if like I was the one beating her. And I remember we were arguing, and like next thing you know, I'm like pointing at her, and then she just like whap, just like catches me in my eye and stuff. I go to work, and I mean it's just like, you know, everybody's got jokes and stuff. I'm just like, you know, it's my wife, like she did it. And they're just like, oh man, like, you know.
So you actually told the guy, the people at work, yeah, my wife did this, and they laughed at you.
Yeah, it was just a big joke. And I mean, I was laughing too, because I mean, like, I didn't know any better. I mean, I'm just like, you know, it's just, it is what it is. Like, what are you going to do? Like I said, I didn't see it, you know, especially then, I didn't see it, you know, because I was a man, I didn't see it as abuse.
Right.
You know, it wasn't till, you know, later on down the road when I met Nicole, and, you know, Nicole Beverly with the Enough Initiative for Domestic Violence, she started like sharing all these different like definitions. And then when I started seeing a lot of that stuff, it just started clicking.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, especially with the isolation and the gaslighting and the flying monkeys. Like, I just like, it just
What's
resonated.
flying monkeys? What is that?
When they use your friends and family against you, they turn them against you, you know, to like basically get their own will. Like if they impose their own will upon your life. And so that's like, you know, one minute you got your friends that, you know, they got your back. Next minute, you know, they're arguing with you about something and you don't know where it's coming from. It's because she's behind the door feeding them information.
How was she able to get through to your friends? They're your friends.
So
how could she tell them something about you that they didn't know?
So with the church, so basically one instance I had a mentor. He comes and sits me down one day, and like, I mean, just out the blue, he's just like, you know, we gotta go get something to eat. He sits me down. He's like, dude, like, I'm tired of coming home to my wife every day and hearing how much of a dirtbag you are. And I'm just like, what? Like, where's this coming from? Like, and he's just like, you don't know anything about what's going on. I'm just like, dude, I have no idea. And I mean, it just kind of like shocked me. But then I started to realize like she's going through the church and she's just talking and just like,
oh, so
just
this was one of your friends that she was talking to, saying that you were a dirtbag.
It was my mentor's wife that she was just constantly talking to. And she was constantly doing that to other members of the church. She was doing it with the pastor's wife. Like she, you know,
even though they knew you, were they believing it?
They knew me before. And that was the crazy thing. They knew me years before they met her.
Right.
And then it was crazy. It's like once they met her, it's like they just started shifting. And it's like she just had a way with people. Like they
sounds
just
like she was a master manipulator.
Oh man, like I said, she did the same thing to my brother's wife, to my brother's ex-wife. Cause yeah, I mean, there was a lot of constant fights because of her.
Now I'm curious, because people that are abused, and I want Shavonna to answer this too, if you can. When you're in a relationship with someone and you're being abused by them, do you guys find it easy or almost impossible to still be intimate with them?
It was nearly impossible for me, like personally. I mean, and that goes with my background. Like, I mean, like, you know, I waited like 26 years to like actually do it. And then next thing you know, like, you know, I'm with somebody, and then like next thing you know, it's like, you know, I kind of saw the writing on the wall. I'm just like, you know, I'm gonna be a single parent real quick, because every day we come home and we fight. And I'm just like, you know, we got to do something. Like, we got to go to counseling or something. That's a whole other story with the counseling. But it, like, like I pretty much just like stopped having sex because I had that practice already.
So
and I
she
just
probably was
knew-
cheating on you then.
Oh yeah, she was like
So you eventually found out that she was cheating.
I mean, that's kind of reason why I left. Like, okay, so there's all these other, like when the fighting first started, I'm just like, okay, you know what? I'm back. I need to like, I'm like, I just need to like get out of this situation. So I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and get an annulment because I mean, I haven't like been with her long. I'm just trying to get this annulment and I'll be good. I go and try and get one, and they said, "Oh, you've been with her too long. You have to. It's like you got to do it before 72 hours. After that, it's the divorce." And so back to the religion, I'm like, "Well, divorce. God hates divorce. I'm just not gonna do it." So I just choose to stick it out. I'm like, I made a decision. Like I'm here. I'm gonna try to make this work. And so the way out was like when she cheated, then it was a way out. And then on top of that, like when I found out she cheated, it was such a crazy situation. When I found out, I mean, I was pretty happy, but
I would have been too. I'm sorry.
I didn't even tell her that I knew. Because I knew what was going to happen. I knew that she was going to lie about it and all this other stuff. So what I would do, I would just I kind of waited, try to figure out certain things. And then once again, we started arguing about the money again, because she wanted to like send more money to folks and stuff and spend more money. And I was just like, and then she made this statement, like, I don't think this is working. And she was talking about like the
now that you spent all my money, now it's not working. Okay.
Yeah, she's talking about
those strippers were probably the ones she was cheating with. They were getting your money. Yeah, you were paying for those lap dances.
So when she made that statement, it kind of like triggered me. I was like, oh, it's not working. Well, like, I'm getting ready to we're getting ready to like have to move to another duty station. Let's go ahead and divorce right here. I'm gonna look for a lawyer in 2 days, and I'm gonna look for a lawyer tomorrow, and like we'll go ahead and start figure things out. She didn't believe I was gonna do it, so I didn't find it. I didn't find it the next day, but the day after next day, I got a lawyer, and like I was like, this is happening. And
so what happened to that religion?
Oh no, that was the thing. That was the thing that broke it up. Like, it was like,
so that was your religion.
That was my way
out.
Was
your religion move. Okay,
that
because
was my religion move. That was my
cheating.
Way out. She cheated. I could finally like get out.
Right.
So you didn't leave her because she was knocking you upside the head. No. You left because she cheated.
And that's the crazy thing. I keep thinking about it even today. Like if I had not found out she cheated, like with her best friend, I'd probably still be in that situation.
Wow. So you never told me, what's the worst thing? Was the black eye the worst thing that she did to you?
Yeah, the black eye was the worst thing. Turning I'd say the worst thing was turning everybody against me. Like, even after the fact, like your name is kind of like gone. It's kind of like you spent so long to kind of build up this good name, and especially with my background, it's like you put so much into it, because like you look at honor, you look at his integrity, you look at all these good things as being like pinnacle of like having a good life, living a good life, and leaving a legacy behind. Right. And for someone to come in and just like just like ruin that, and then the people that you built relationships with, in the church and, around that, to kind of just like turn on you. And I mean, I don't blame them. I mean, she is a good manipulator. And, unless you really knew what was going on, you can't really like, because everyone always says there's two sides to every story. So like, I could sit there, and just like, tell you till you're blue in the face that this is what's going on, but unless you're really there looking at it, like you might not believe me. And she's she's a lot more convincing in a lot of cases. When I married her, I didn't listen to her dad, who was like her stepdad. It was just like I'm talking to the dude, and he's just like, nah, you shouldn't do it.
So her stepdad told you shouldn't marry her?
He told me, like, and that's the other thing, like, when Shavonna mentioned, like, parents, like, my dad introduced me, but then after the fact, when I was about to get married, he's like, no, don't do it, like, because he got to know her a little bit more, and it was just like, nah, he's like, that's of the devil.
So even your dad told you not to?
Yup. My mom told me don't do it. Like, like most of my friends don't do it.
So they were seeing something that you obviously didn't see. And you didn't even have sex to blind you this time.
Nope. Nope.
Wow. So you were going
It
into
was
it
my
clean.
it
and
was
you
my
just,
lack of experience. I'd
lack
say.
of experience.
Right.
Yeah.
That is so
Wow.
odd.
That is so let me ask you a question. Did that shape the way you feel about other women? Did it change what you see and what you look for now? I mean, will you be a little more careful next time?
It has. I mean, especially like being like being in the army and just seeing like I remember times where like she would be hitting me, and yeah, a lot of times I would restrain her like her arms and stuff, and I'm thinking in my head like this could be me going to jail and stuff like if this gets out of hand, because like I'm restraining her, but she's like kicking and screaming. I'm having to like restrain her for like 30 minutes and stuff because she's just like I mean like just I don't know, just like rabid. And like I remember seeing other soldiers who were in similar situations. Some like they're sneaky enough to get into the bathroom. You get in the bathroom, you can sneak out the window. Some thought it was a good idea to call the cops because just like, okay, she's beating on me, I'm gonna call the cops. What do the cops do? They take the man in because he's bigger, so they take him in and he goes to jail. And it's just like you don't want to go to jail, so it's like, what do you
So
do?
do you know people that went to jail when they called
Yeah.
on?
Oh yeah, they were. Yeah, a lot of my soldiers went to jail. A lot of my soldiers, like, because they
So that
locked you
spooked
up.
you. You were like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. I'm like, no way, because I
But
mean,
that's not
like,
fair, Carla.
I'm seeing it like almost every weekend. Like, dude, he comes in, he's like, yeah, I call the police, and the police are like, yeah, he called the police, but he's the one that gets locked up because they're just like somebody has to
Well,
go to jail.
if they can't formally identify the aggressor, then they're going to take somebody, or they're going to tell y'all to leave, or they say, all right, well, I don't see anything going wrong here, so y'all just all have a good night. And that happened to me a few times. But I mean, a lot of times, yeah, you would think if you're the one that called and they would say, okay,
Yeah.
he's the one who called, obviously he's the one who's being, but no.
Because now I'm seeing a lot of these videos out where like the women are like some of them are like beating themselves and stuff, and then they call the cops. And like one guy, he got locked up for a couple of weeks, and it wasn't for him coming back and finding the camera in the elevator. Like he'd still be facing charges, going to jail and stuff. And so that actually happened. A similar situation like that happened to one of my soldiers, and she basically like I mean start punching herself in the face and stuff, and they call the cops. But like in this particular case, it was like a pretty decent cop because he looked at her and he looked at her hand, looked at how big his hand was. He was like, there's no way he did that. And so like he kind of got over on that. But I mean, like a lot of times, yeah, they get locked up, and then like
so
Shabana,
Shabana, what do you think when you hear this? What do you think when you hear this, Shabana?
It's sickening. Honestly, it is, because like I was just talking to somebody out in my community about it, something like that with the men. And it's like, this is why they don't speak. This is why they don't come out and say anything, because society thinks men don't get beat on. You have officers who will like, oh, you got beat by a girl. We're not taking this report. Like, how'd you let that happen?
Yeah.
You have some men who it's like they feel less of a man because that happened to them. Like, I just got victimized. It's harder, I think, honestly, not to discredit us women who go through it, but I think it's harder for the guys that have to go through it because they don't really have any resources. They don't have anywhere to turn. There's no DV shelter for men at all. There's no
I think I heard during the
Tommy
broadcast this
mentioned-
week, there's like 2 in this country. They're like,
Tommy mentioned there was 2.
Yeah,
But that's
2.
it.
That's it.
That surprised me.
Yeah,
Because I know Gene, who was here last night and Monday, he said that he's working on that to open up a shelter for men.
Yeah.
He's on the same wave that I'm on because I'm using my organization here to do the same thing in New York because we don't have anything. Again, we women, yeah, we have our stuff. It's not to say we don't need it. But if you got brothers, uncles, husbands, like you want to make sure that there's someplace they could at least go to say, like, hey, I don't like that this happened, because if they don't treat it, we're going to have bigger problems on our hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like what Tommy says here. He says, 2 for men in the United States. Yeah, so he reiterated that. I think you guys definitely get a bad rap, Phil. And where is she now? This woman.
Let's see, last I heard, she's like somewhere like in Northern Virginia, like not near me.
But you guys got divorced though.
We did. We got divorced. Like through the process, I was homeless for about like 2 months.
You
I
should have
kinda, like,
gone to the
just, like,
strip club to get your money back.
yeah, because when I went to court, like when I went
Look
when I
here,
went to
y'all
court,
gotta check up in here with me. Look here. I don't have anywhere to go. I need to get some of that back. I didn't get a dance, so let me get some of that back, right? So no, seriously, why did you end up homeless?
so when I went to court, like what they do when you first when you initiate a divorce, they freeze all your assets. So I had, we're living in a house in Tennessee. I had another property in Texas, and I'm getting ready to move to Pennsylvania. And so like I'm like, okay, since I'm thinking like things are amicable, like we're just gonna figure this thing out and just like split. But she had other plans in mind. So like when they start the freeze, we start the non-locality BAH dissemination, which is the alimony, and that was $1,055 a month. So she was getting that a month. So like basically she didn't want to stop that. So she would, after we initiated that, she stopped talking to her own attorney, and she stopped like showing up to court. And I mean, it got to the point I had to like fire my initial attorney, get another attorney. He was able to get me in front of the magistrate after 7 months. And this is after I already moved. I'm living in the car, and like she's thinking like, oh, you're rich and stuff, but everything's tied into your assets, so you're not rich. Like I'm going to work. I'm going to work as a company commander, and I'm pretending like I'm living in somewhere, but I'm really like living in my car. I go take showers at the gym and work out, and then I just roll to a parking lot somewhere to go sleep, and then I cook inside my office sometimes if I'm not going to get something to eat and stuff. So I'm just like camping out until like something frees up for me. But it was.
So wasn't that
crazy.
you didn't have money, you just didn't have access to it?
Right. It was just tied up in everything, and paying her. So once the end came, like when the magistrate, not my attorney threatened her with like a letter and stuff. He was just like, we're going to stop the payments if you don't start showing up to court. And I mean,
so that got her attention.
I don't know. Yeah, it got her attention. I don't know how true that was or whatever, but there's a lot of times like, people just don't show up anyway. So like, yeah. So it's like, she showed up, in fear of losing the money. That's the only thing that made her respond to anything. And so the magistrate, like, he kind of saw what was going on. He didn't even like let me talk. Like if I try to like, correct something, he'd just be like, no more outbursts. And so I just like, I got it. And so like, he's like, he's like, I see what's going on. You two, I think you two can go in the back and figure this out. And if you don't, then you're going to come back in another court date, and she's going to pay for the court. And I was just like, wow. So we go back to the back, and she's like, okay, I just want the $1,055 for a year, and then half of that for the next year. And I look at my lawyer. He's like, that's a pretty decent deal. I'm like, cool. We take it. And then that's the last time I heard from her.
Good. And
So
y'all don't have kids, right?
No kids. Like
Thank
I said,
God.
like I saw the writing on the wall, and I stopped. I just stopped having sex. Like the intimacy and stuff just stopped like a year out before we even like.
And you waited
started
so
divorce.
long for it.
I did. And so now I'm in this predicament where it's crazy. Like even after the fact, I got my heart broken by someone I knew after the fact. Like after I got divorced and everything, like about a year after, and she was actually in an abusive relationship, left her husband, and then we start talking long distance, and once again I fall in love long distance, and then she goes back to him after she figures out she's pregnant by him, and like that just broke me. And so then like about a year later I meet someone else, and then it was just I kind of got into this mode where it felt like no matter what, like someone was gonna turn on me for whatever reason. And it's crazy. Like it's weird, but I still kind of feel like that. Like I'm trying to justify it, like the logic of it in my head, but it always feels like I don't know, like, cause like the things that are said to you, you kind of internalize them and you kind of like, manifest
Don't.
them. And
Don't.
yeah, I try not to, but it's just like sometimes when you see like the fruit of your labor like turn to certain things,
Hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
And you're meeting a lot of hurt people.
Yeah.
And you're so nice. I mean, I hate to say this, but it's like it's almost like, oh yeah, I got me one now, boy. I'm gonna just he got money. I can just hear the conversation now. He has money, he's got a good job, benefits, right?
You want to know the crazy thing? So I meet my ex-wife's biological father. So I hear all these bad stories about this guy, and I'm like, before I meet him, I'm like, man, like he does the wrong thing. I'm gonna fight this dude. Like I'm so mad at him and stuff. Like she's like, oh, he hit my mom like when she was like pregnant with me and stuff. I'm like, man, this dude's like he's an abuser and stuff, right? And so like when I meet the guy, like I've already, like mind you, I've already like learned the mom. I learned like how manipulative she is, how abusive she is. Like she forced my ex-wife to do like lines of coke when she was like a kid and stuff, like as a peace offering. She like she they get into fist fights and stuff. Like she throw batteries at her husband, like I mean beat him, constantly cheat on him and stuff. So like that's the background like he's coming from. So I know the provocation. I know that she can provoke. And so I'm like, this is in the back of my head. So I meet the guy, right? I'm thinking like, oh man, he better not say the wrong thing. So I meet the guy, and it was just like the scariest thing ever because when I meet him, it was like meeting like a light-skinned version of me.
Wow.
But older. And I'm like, what is going on here? And then like we're talking, we're getting along, and she keeps pulling me over. She's like, stop being so nice to him. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like we're just talking. Like, she's like, you don't understand. And I'm just like, okay. And so like, she go like, we have a good time and stuff. And I'm like, he's been trying to reach out to you and stuff. And like, it's been your mom that's been the one like keeping him at bay and everything. Like he wants to build a relationship with you. And, she's kind of warming up to the idea and stuff. So she goes to the bathroom, right? And he kind of looks at me. He's just like, is everything going good? And I'm like, yeah, everything's kind of good. He's like, okay. I'm like, but she's kind of like starting to like, be a little bit like her mom and stuff. And he looks me dead in my face and he's just like, you need anything, you call me. And then from that moment, I was just like, whoa, I'm in something like, I don't even know, way over my head.
Yeah, he can see it.
Do you have any regrets?
I do.
He's like, all right, number one. Number two.
Yeah, shouldn't have done it. Like, I mean, like I said, like if it wasn't for my beliefs, I would have like gotten that divorce like because I tried when I tried to get that annulment, I would have gotten that divorce, but because like I just didn't believe in the title of like divorce, like I just didn't want to do it.
So many people feel the same way you do. I had someone last night on the broadcast saying the same exact thing, that she didn't want to get out of the marriage because of the religion. But the Bible has a lot of stuff in it, and divorce is just a little bitty section.
Yeah.
But there's a whole lot of stuff in there that tells us about who we are and what we should expect and what you're supposed to have because you're his child. But we don't read any of that stuff. We just get to that divorce part and say, well, I shouldn't get divorced. But
yeah, you see all these memes and stuff. You see like, I want my first marriage to be my last marriage.
Did you love her when you married her?
I mean, when I first married her, yes. But then, like, when I saw the change, it was just like, this isn't the person I thought it was.
Well,
like,
you're tricked. And so the person who you love doesn't actually exist.
Yeah.
Very good point, Carla.
I mean, it's a whole other facade to get you to where she wants you. And then, yeah.
But she wasn't good, though, because she wasn't able to fool your parents.
No.
That's amazing. That's interesting.
Even with my, like, now I'm taking a lesson from, like, the life playbook. Like, it's like that last girl that met my mom, that met my parents. The one I broke up with, the very last one I dated back in 2015.
You actually broke up with someone?
Yeah. I mean, it was like.
You're already healed then. He's already figured it out. There's it. Wrap the show up. He's got it. He doesn't need any counseling. He's got it now.
So that was 2014. So that's been a long time ago.
Yes, it has. Don't tell me you went and got another crazy one.
No, I haven't dated since. And so like the reason I broke up with her because
You
it was
haven't
just
dated
like,
since 2014?
that's what I'm trying to tell you. Like I'm in this mode where I'm just like, I just I just think it's like me, and I just feel like, like a lot of times it's like, like people just turning on me. And so like my mom even mentioned that she had like some manipulative tendencies and stuff. So this time I listened to my mom, and then I just kind of like started seeing some things, and I just like, yeah, you know what, like, maybe we should be friends. And then like, that
What
was
would
the end
you
of
say
that
to
one.
him? What would you say to him, Shavana? Because he's feeling, I mean, he hasn't dated since 2014. Do you think he should jump back in, just be careful, or what
I
would
won't
you
say
say?
jump in. I won't say jump. I would say definitely put your toe in the water just a little bit.
Put your toe in the water.
Just kind of ease in, take your time, feel people out, like see them through all 4 seasons. Sometimes you got to shake that ground sometimes to see how strong that foundation is.
Mhm.
You just don't jump in head first. Don't let what happened to you block you, because you may end up missing out on something that you really need.
Very good point. Because
Yeah, I mean,
you are
it's kind
a
of like a
very
roll of the
nice guy.
dice.
You're a
It
very
I
is.
mean,
nice guy.
and I hear that's a detriment to me too. Like I'm just like too nice, and like
No.
I'm like a mark.
Somebody said you need counseling. You're not dating. You need counseling. He ain't dating.
See, that's my first sergeant right there.
You know what you do? Let them meet your representative first. Don't put you out there first. You might have to cut like a wall up and let them see a
And
cover letter per
that's what
se
I'm learning.
for
That's
this
what I'm
dating
learning how to
game.
do. I'm
It's a
learning
very
like
good
that's
idea.
important. It's like, like I saw someone say one time in a video, like, you shouldn't smile all the time. Like someone should earn that from you. Like, because a lot of times people see you smile. I mean, like I said, I had a good
I mean, you've
childhood,
been
and
smiling since you came on the backstage. You
yeah, I
walk.
mean,
You came on the
I
camera
like to
like this.
smile. I like to
I
smile. I
know.
like to be happy. I like to joke around and stuff. And then
No, you
like,
have a beautiful personality. You really
yeah,
do.
some
But
people
people.
just like are offended by that.
No, I'm not. I think it's great. I think you have a very good aura about yourself. But I think you do. I like what Shavana says. I think you have to be a little. Just don't put it all out there up front, because then people pegging you out and they're like, oh yeah, I know what I could do with this one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I want to get back to you, Shavana, because we're gonna wrap it up for tonight. Tell me what you want people to take from your story moving forward. What would you like them to take from it?
Do not ignore your intuition. I will say that if you have people that really love you and they see these signs, take heed. Even if you don't react right away, just hold that in your memory bank. But it doesn't matter if you feel this person's going to hurt you or not. I don't care if you done met Prince Charming and he doesn't show anything in the beginning. Always have a game plan regardless of who you're dealing with, because they don't pop out the same day. My mom always said it's like the same day a leaf falls in the water, it's going to rotten. That's the method I use with dating. And just prepare yourself for anything. Keep your guard up. Don't give yourself in right away. If it happens once, it'll happen again. Don't make the mistake that many of us have made to think that it may not. If they were sorry, they wouldn't have did it.
That's
Sorries are
right.
cover-ups. And
And a lot
self
of
first.
times, what I'm seeing too, Carla and Siobhan and Phil, is that a lot of these abusers, they need help too.
They do.
They need help too. And I pray that there's enough counseling to go around, because it's like, and I'm going to have a show on for a week, 2 weeks from now, where we're actually going to be interviewing people that are clergymen that are really suffering, that people just don't know. And then we're going to bring counselors on to kind of minister to those people that are the ones causing the problems. Because the guy that's going to come on, that's what he does for a living, is he finds men that abuse people, and he wants to get in their head and find out why they do this and counsel them, because that's the only way we're going to cut it. It's almost like COVID, kind of. No, that's probably a bad comparison, but anyway, scratch that part, edit that part, Carla.
Edit
It's
that out.
nothing like COVID.
Reverse.
Woo!
Hold
Girl, I got chills all over me when I said that. It's nothing like COVID. But anyway, I was trying to be, trying to come up with something. But yeah, we're gonna do that, because I don't want it. I like two sides to both story. I want to find. We need everybody to heal. Otherwise, they're just gonna keep reoffending. And then you guys who are being abused, you're gonna keep getting abused, because those people still exist. We got to cut it at the root. And a lot of it starts, people that feel free to abuse people, they've been through some stuff, right, Carla? Do you think? And then
I,
even with your ex-husband,
I think there are different type of abusers. My ex-husband is a sociopath bottom line. It doesn't matter the amount of therapy that he'll ever get in his life. He'll never change because he thinks he's done nothing wrong. And then there are people who abuse because that's what they were taught to do, and that's the childhood that they were raised in. And hopefully a lot of their actions, once they understand what is wrong with them. But unfortunately, domestic violence, people who abuse people, it is super rare that it's changed. I mean, it's one of the most it's either it's either in you or it's not. And that's very, very sad. But I think the people who can change and can become different, those are the people where it was taught to them, and they're, with therapy and other things can help them. But some of them are just sociopaths, and they simply think they've done absolutely nothing wrong, or narcissists. So
wow,
yeah.
wow. So Phil, what would you like people to take from your story? And for the men out there, I want you to talk to the men.
Um, I'd like to share like one of the craziest stories I ever heard. It was actually when I was on a segment with Tommy, and it was another brother. He shared his story of how his wife was cheating, and he went to go get her in a bar, but by that time she had convinced the whole bar like that he was actually the abuser. And so he comes in and she's like, I mean, she's kissing on this dude and stuff. He's like, babe, we got to go home. We got to go work this out and stuff. And she starts hitting on him and stuff. And as he blocks it, like all they see is like, him raising his hands like he's gonna hit her or something. And so like they come and they just start like beating on this dude. They take him out back. They beat on him. She comes out back. They let her kick him until he like passes out and stuff. And then she's just like, whatever, just finish him or whatever. And so they just beat him until like, he's just to a pulp and stuff. And like when he got admitted to the hospital, he was admitted as a John Doe because they couldn't even recognize this guy. And he still has these like, ailments and stuff to this day from that beating. And a lot of times like in an abusive situation, like when it's a man, it's there's a lot of other different key parts in there. And that one right there in particular is called flying monkeys. Like she used that whole bar, that whole situation to her advantage to basically put him in the hospital. So I mean it's a pretty dangerous situation. And if it wasn't for Nicole teaching me these definitions, I wouldn't know. A lot of times a guy is in a situation he doesn't know. Just like Gene was mentioning yesterday, he saw the signs and I believe it's like his son-in-law, like he saw the signs in him. It's like another guy can see the signs sometimes. Like I know with her my ex-wife's brother-in-law, a lot of times we would talk, and it would be like it was almost like we were the only ones could really understand what we were going through, like. But we didn't know it as domestic violence. We didn't know it as abuse. We just thought it was just something weird. We would just call it the special evil or something. Like, it was so weird. Like you explain it to someone else, another guy, and it's just like it's foreign to him, unless he's like going through it, and it's just like you pick up on it. Like when I met my first sergeant, I picked up on a lot of stuff he was going through because I went through it already. So like just like when Tommy brought me in the fold with Nicole, it's like if you're a guy, you're going through it. And you see another guy going through it, speak up, talk with them. Like, because I mean, like when it comes to men, there's like not, like I said, there's like I didn't know I was even in that situation, like that label, until like I started talking to people,
Right?
And because there's not that many people to talk to, so you going through that situation, talk to somebody.
Well, are there support groups, Carla, out there for men that are going through domestic violence? I know I see them all day on Facebook for women.
Yeah, there are. I know that the group that I was a part of when we had our Sunday night Zoom meetings, the founder of that, the co-founder of the organization, he was wanting to start something for men. And I'm sure there are a lot out there. Phil, start one. Start a Zoom
Start one.
for men. Start it. We do our Sunday nights at 9:00. I haven't been a part of it the past few because it's just been, I've had an insane summer. But I met some of the most amazing women from my group, and start one. Zoom, post it on Facebook. Hey, let me know, and if anybody, Tommy is an awesome resource. He is great. And
Oh yeah.
I know he would probably love to be involved in something like
I'm
that.
sure.
Now, and that's what's so great about social media. It can be used for
Yeah.
social media now, because now you can, people who maybe can't physically get out and go to a meeting at their local tiny town, church for, whatever recovery group or whatever. I mean, you can do this privately in your own home. And I know for our group, we have women from all over the country, and we've had women from other countries who've heard about it. And I mean, it's such a great thing. Start.
So you don't have to be there, Carla, to be a part of that support group.
No.
Then Shavonna, I think you should definitely hook up with Carla, and
Yeah.
I think you should definitely consider a support group. And the reason I say a support group, not just for people to hear your story, but they may know some stuff you don't, that they
Right.
can lead you in the right directions with some of their connections.
Right.
So I really hope and pray that you'll consider it. I know you're under, a lot of pressure right now, and you got a lot of stress going, but you need to be able to let some of it out, and the best way is to get it out with people who have been through what you're going through or still going through what you're going through. So Carla, I would love for you guys to, hook up and bring her into the fold with your support. Carla is a very good resource, Shavonna. That's why she is here, and she'll always be my Domestic Violence Week co-host until she gets married, and then she won't know me anymore.
Whatever.
She'll be going on, and I'll still be here single, trying to figure it out.
I'm always with you.
You are. I love it. I love you. I love you so much. I'm so honored to have all of you here on the broadcast tonight, because what you had to do was brave. Phil, you'll be known as the guy who was just so nice, who waited 26 years to get to have sex, and he finally gets with a knucklehead the first time around. Hopefully that won't change your mind.
That's so heartbreaking. And that
it really is.
You know what? You're one day when you do find your person, you're gonna be the absolute best version.
Best husband. Yes.
For
I
sure.
see that. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
A great father too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm happy for you, Phil. And I'm very proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
I think your parents raised a remarkable young man, and don't change these values. Even if you're the only one with them, keep them, because it's good. It's good. It's good.
Well,
what you got.
I have changed a little bit.
Well, I should hope so. Or you're going to keep paying the strip club all your money. I'm just saying. But Shavonna, do you want to say anything before we get out of here?
We're going to leave it at just keep your eyes open. And in the sake of Phil, please, just take the wall down just a tiny bit, just to shop, sir. What they said is true. You're going to find the right one. And she'll deserve you. Just keep praying on it. Sometimes they'll let the chase, then they'll be led to you.
So what about you, Shavonna? Did you meet someone else, or you just kind of chilling?
I sure did. I definitely did. And I'll say this. Sometimes you have to go through hell to appreciate heaven. That's where I'm at right now. Somebody that's gentle, understanding, that doesn't hold my past over my head, and understands that I'm going to have my dark days.
He's being patient with you in all this you're going through. That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome. Was there anything that the Ella Johnson Show can do for you? Let me know, both of you. If you guys have some kind of rally or something that you do, I would love to come and be, and be a part of it. Because this domestic violence community looks like I'm kind of in. Got a lot of friends now. But you know what? That's what we have to do. Huh?
So you're doing a lot of good work.
Well, I hope that people are listening. I really do. I hope people are getting it and they're listening. But we have more coming up tomorrow night. We have a full house tomorrow night. I see Purpell. She's there, and she's going to be here tomorrow. And Sheila's going to be here tomorrow. We're just gonna have a full house tomorrow. I would love for you guys to come back on Friday because we want to bring all of the domestic violence survivors back on Friday. We just have a nice little time Friday night. Might bring out the wine and just toast to each one of you and just have a relaxed time. You know, we're gonna have some new guests, but we want all of the guests that came on this week to come. So you guys are more than welcome to come back on Friday. All right. So you can talk about your book. Shivani, you want to tell people where they can get your book? I mean, I know you guys are you're co-authoring it, but
I co-authored Diamonds in the Rough and The Power of Perseverance. You can find them on Amazon. And I'm hoping to finish up my memoir sooner than later. That will be Surviving My Scars. And I'm holding no punches. I'm definitely leaving some very useful information in these books. I'm not guarding anyone's name in this
you're
memoir.
putting the names in the book?
At this point, it's already pretty much out there for some of the people who do know.
Right.
But I think I faced the fiery flames already at this point. And people need to see the truth of what it is. A lot of the times we see these books and it's someone who just dreamt it up. These stories are raw
real
and true.
Right. Raw and true. Right. I hear
and
you.
I think it'll hit more to home if they see that.
That's what I had in mind when I was writing. I'm like, I'm not going to go in here and say, oh, Ella was a nice little church girl. Went to church. Yes, she did. Yes, she went to church, but she was still out there doing some stuff she didn't have any business doing. It's the truth. But anyway, guys, thank you both so much for coming on. Thank you, Carla.
Thank you
for being co-host. Of course, I
Thank
know we won't
you.
see you anymore this week because you got a lot of stuff going on.
This
But
is
the
great.
next time we do it, you know I'm going to call you.
Yes,
You already know.
I'll be here.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you all so much. Those of you who are, let me go over here real quick because I like to give my viewers time. You know, when they looks like we got a lot of different. Yeah, God bless you all. So people have definitely been chiming in. Tommy and Perpel, thank you guys. You know, everybody, all of you that have tuned in tonight and that have been with us all week. Thank you so much. We have 2 more nights to go here on the Ella Johnson Show. We're talking about domestic violence, true stories of survival. So you guys come join us again tomorrow night. More stories, but all minds are satisfied. We're gonna get out of here. Good night. See you tomorrow night, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for tuning in to the Ella Johnson Show.